Okay, previously on the book of Shmuel part Bet, we saw what I think we referred to in Shir HaShirim 7:6 as Melech Asur Barehatim, the king captive in the hairlocks. So David's army and the battle location was too much for Avshalom's troops. Yoav callously put an end to Avshalom, and then in the beginning of chapter 19, we saw that a broken king was mourning the death of yet another child. The rest of the chapter will remind you, if you're a Tolkien fan, and if you are not, we need to speak afterwards, to remedy that. The rest of the chapter
dressing down.
well, no, the rest of this chapter, what we're going to see now in 19 is essentially the Grey Havens. That's why I called this parak the Return of the King.
The Grey Haven? I don't get the reference.
Okay, it's what Joseph Campbell calls like the hero's journey. It's like the return of the hero, where he sees all the people that he saw on the journey going. He sees them on the way back. And it's like, oh, there's some nice closure there. That's essentially what we're at. But first, we're gonna do a little excursus, and that is to discuss the parallels between Yehonatan and Avshalom. So, just by way of refresher, because we haven't been learning for the past couple weeks. So Avshalom basically gets his start with on the heels of David's sin. So David sins with Bathsheba, and the follow up from there is a very passive David, and because of such passivity, so Amnon essentially right under David's nose, or almost with David's help, rapes his half sister Tamar, and
stuff happens.
Right. Well,
he gets killed.
So what happens really is that after he does that, David does nothing. So then Avshalom takes it upon himself to do something about it, and he kills Amnon. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So after Avshalom kills Amnon, again David does nothing. Avshalom runs away, and David continues to be passive until Yoav convinces David to do something and bring Avshalom back. There's not any real reunion between them because David keeps Avshalom at arm's length. So then once again, we have Yoav bringing the wise woman of Tekoa, who serendipitously convinces David to reunite with Yoav and gets David to say, like not a hair from his head will be hurt. I'm sorry, not right. Avshalom, thank you. So on the heels of all of this David passivity is what eventually leads Avshalom to say, okay, well, I guess David is checked out, so I'm going to check in and take over as king. We argued possibly expecting David to just not do anything about it, like he's not done anything about everything else that has happened. David doesn't quite do nothing. He has the get up and go to get up and go and runs away. Eventually, things come to a head, and Avshalom's army and David's army meet on the battlefield. David wins, and he doesn't take it very well, which is again kind of weird. It takes Yoav to come back to him and say, "Look, I understand that David the person lost a son, but the king of the Jews won a battle against a mutiny.
We all put our lives on the line for you, and you're acting like a jerk."
Right. So what I wanted to do is just pause for a minute here and kind of compare the characters of Yehonatan and Avshalom, just to give you kind of a window into how I try to put these things together. So when working on the shir, usually I start with like the Mikros Gedolos and some of the standard commentaries, and then I look at whatever the modern scholars have to say. I haven't found what I'm going to share with you in either of those places. So when that happens, I like to preface with, this is just my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth. But what made me pause and notice in the text was when we were talking about the wise woman of Tekoa. So she says, she gets David to say that not a hair from his head will be hurt. Right? We're not going to touch a hair on his head. That phrase is rare. It's unique. It's so unique that it made me wonder, where else have we had that phrase? Answer: Yehonatan. Way back when Shaul, right? Way back when Shaul was fighting, right? Shaul in, I think it was Shmuel Aleph Parak Yadalid, chapter 14. So Shaul is chasing the Plishtim, and he makes his army take an oath that no one will eat anything under pain of death until they catch all the Plishtim who are running away. Yehonatan, who had not been there because he was the one going to actually bring the battle to the Plishtim, he didn't hear about the oath. He is famished. He takes the end of his staff, dips it in the honey, eats some of the honey, and that gives him the energy to kind of finish his pursuit. And then eventually Shaul finds out about it after a whole lottery, and he wants to kill Yehonatan, and the people say, not a hair from his head should fall to the ground. Right? The same language that we had by Avshalom we had the first time by Yehonatan. So when you see that kind of textual clue, you say to yourself, okay, well, if that's the same, what else is the same? So I'll give you the list that I was able to pull together, and I even have handouts. Look at that. Handy dandy chart. So both characters step in when their fathers do not act. Yehonatan attacks the Plishtim when Shaul hesitates, and Avshalom kills Amnon for raping Tamar when David does not intervene. They both employ deception. Yehonatan helps David escape from Shaul, and Avshalom uses a feast to kill Amnon. The phrase "not a hair from their head" is going to be harmed. Yehonatan, where am I? Oh, both are army leaders. They have their death announced to David, who mourns them deeply, and their bodies are not treated with proper respect after their death. Both are princes who do not achieve the throne, right? They're both in line for the throne, and they both don't achieve the throne. Both of their stories include David fleeing. Yehonatan's during Shaul pursuing David, obviously, and Avshalom is the cause for David fleeing during his rebellion. Also, both die ostensibly, I think, due to the sins of their fathers, meaning the Yehonatan dies in battle with Shaul as part of Shaul's punishment, and Avshalom is part of the fourfold punishment.
Right?
Yeah, it's Avshalom is definitely not to take anything away from his free choice to attack David, but this all really started when David pronounced his own verdict and saying that there was going to be a fourfold punishment. So there's a bit of David's sin that's involved in that as well. So that is kind of the comparison between Yehonatan and Avshalom. And now I think we can go back and not start chapter 19, but actually pick up from where we left off last time. And that is Pasuk 9, I believe. This. So we're in 19. There should be Psucha there too. Right, so in Pasuk 9, Vayakam HaMelech ve'ishu b'shar l'chol ha'am higidu le'mor hinei HaMelech yoshev b'shar ve'yavo kol ha'am lifnei HaMelech v'Yisrael nas ish lo alav. We talked about how the people essentially acted as if they had lost, right? They're all kind of slinking away to their tents, even though it was a victory. It was sort of a bittersweet situation. Vayhi kol ha'am nadon b'chol shiftei Yisrael le'mor, and all the people throughout all.
It was a victory until David says it wasn't.
Right.
Because they viewed it as a victory until David says otherwise.
Correct. I think that's exactly right. But he kol ha'am nadon b'chol shiftei Yisrael le'mor. And again, I think we talked last time that there's a little bit of confusion between kol ha'am and shiftei Yisrael. It sounds to me like there's an argument between Yehuda and the rest of the Shvatim. Le'mor saying, Hamelech hitzilanu mikaf oivenu v'hu miltanu mikaf plishtim. David has done the thing that a king is supposed to do. He's delivered us from the hand of our enemies, meaning from the Plishtim. V'ata barach min haaretz me'al Avshalom, and now he had to flee because of Avshalom. Avshalom asher mashachnu aleinu meis b'milchama, and Avshalom is dead. He was our guy. We backed him, and now he's dead. V'ata lama atem macharishim lahashiv es hamelech. Now, why are you all kind of silent about the return of the king? Meaning we've kind of gone through a difficult process here, but we now have clarity. David is the guy on the throne. We should be doing something about it and returning the king to his rightful place. V'amelech David shalach el tzadok v'el Aviatar hakohanim lemor daber el ziknei Yehuda lemor. So David says that's all very nice, Bnei Yisrael, or what do we have, Shiftei Yisrael, but I'm from Yehuda, so this is not something that Yehuda can kind of sit out. So he tells Tzadok and Abiosar, Dabru el Ziknei Yehuda lemor, lama tiyu achronim lahashiv es hamelech el beito. Why would you guys be the last in line to return the king to his rightful place. Udvar kol Yisrael ba el hamelach el beso. Speak to Yehuda and all of Beis Yisrael to bring the king back. Achayatem atzmi
Of
b'sariyatem.
course, makes sense why Yehuda wouldn't be doing that.
Why?
Because Avshalom was going back to their ancient capital, Hebron.
Hebron. Okay.
Okay, so it's in their interest to be more. They're still tribal, and here he's giving back the tribal capital.
Okay.
Avshalom is. So
Well, Avshalom marched on Yerushalayim. He didn't stay in Hebron.
yeah, but his base is Hebron.
Okay.
That's where he goes. That's where he doesn't go to Yerushalayim. He goes to Hebron
Right, to start.
to start. So
Yeah, for sure.
He's given the tribe of Yehuda the
prominence.
the prominence of what it is. So now they're asking Yehuda to come back into
the fold.
into a union where they're no longer as strong as they used to be.
That's fair. I think that's very insightful. They had a place of prominence, and now they're going to just be one. Right. Yeah, it's a delicate thing that David has to do right now, which is the whole nation supported the rebel, and you have to kind of excuse all of that and say, I know you guys were on team enemy, but now we're all friends again. Everything's okay. It was just Avshalom that was the problem. You guys were not really the problem. Achayatem, atzmi b'sariyatem, right? This is David. His message is, we're all flesh and blood. Why would you guys want to be the last ones to get in line and kiss the ring? Everybody is back on Team David, and I want to make sure that my closest kinsmen are first in line. And David goes a step further,
which clearly indicates that they were last.
Right, they hadn't made any overtures to him, so he has to make them correct.
Which again shows that they were last to do this.
Yes. V'la Amasa Tomru, and now he has a message for Amasa. Halo atzmi b'sariata. You Amasa are also, you're literally my relative. Ko yaseh li Elohim v'cho Yosef. So should God do, and he makes this oath. Im lo sar tzavatiel lifanai kol hayamim tachas Yoav. You've been promoted, Amasa. You were previously the head general of Avshalom's army.
Now you're the commander in chief.
Right. Think about what just happened over here. He's the head. He's been promoted to the head of David's army. Amasa is 0 for 1 in war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amasa's been the head of one army that lost. Yoav is like undefeated, and he got demoted, right? It shows you David's reaction to what Yoav has been doing is. Let me not overstate the case. It could be that this is just a very healthy political tactic to say I can't have Avshalom defer to me, so I have the second in line to Avshalom was the head of his army. If he wears my banner, that will show all the people that we're united. But I think there's also, he doesn't have to say Tachas Yoav. He could just say you are now the head of the army. The fact that he's promoting Amasa and demoting Yoav says to me that there's a little bit more sticking in his craw based on Yoav's last
screaming at him.
Right. Addition by subtraction. Okay, so now we're going to get a replay of the cast.
Also, Yoav failed him.
How did Yoav fail him?
Yoav failed him because what was his commandment with regard to Avshalom?
So that's an interesting question. Does David know that Yoav? Yoav didn't kill Avshalom. Yoav did not kill Avshalom.
Yoav failed him because his commandment to Yoav was clear.
Right. Guard the boy, not just don't kill him.
Guard the boy.
Right.
He failed him.
That's fair. That's fair.
And but he stabbed him in 3 darts through the heart.
Yeah. Right. Vayat es levav kol ish Yehuda ki ish echad. And Amasa, they have in brackets over here, sways the heart of all of Yehuda to be as one people. Vayishlechu el hamelech shuvata v'chol avdecha. And now they are like, okay, you promoted our guy. We get it. We're on Team David. Come back with all of your followers. We welcome you with open arms.
Again, with the reference of Kol Ish Yehuda.
Right. Yehuda to be at the head. Vayashav hamelech v'yavo ad hayarden. So now the king is on his way back, and he again pauses at the Yarden. This is kind of a liminal space. When you cross over, that's when you're back in your own kingdom. Yehuda ba hagilgala laleches lekras hamelech, and now all the Yehudaites come to greet the king. Lahavir es hamelech es hayarden. This is kind of ceremonial, right? It's not just that he needs operationally he needs help getting over the Yarden. It's that this is a major ceremonial event, the crossing over back of the Yarden, the return of the king. Vayimaher Shimi ben Gera. So, like we said before, we're now going to see the cast of characters that we saw before, although we're going to have one switch with Itai and Barzilai Hagiladi, but we're going to get all the same people, kind of reversal of what we saw before. Vayimaher Shimi ben Gera ben Hayimini Asher mi Bachurim, in case you forgot who he was. Vayered im Ish Yehuda likras Hamelech David. So Shimi is joining with Ish Yehuda. Remember, he's a Yemini. He's from Binyamin, but he wants to be at the head of even Yehuda of this whole ceremony in greeting David. This is a dangerous thing for Shimi to do. If I'm Shimi, I don't know if I have the guts to do something like this, right? Because the last time he saw David, he was cursing him, throwing rocks at him, and
maybe throwing other things.
maybe exactly.
No, it's a political move. It's a strong political move being encouraged by David.
That's interesting. Why encouraged by David?
Because encouraged by David by the fact that David is making all these grandiose gestures to all the people who have betrayed him.
Right. He wants to kumbaya. So if he wants to kumbaya, let me get in line.
This is his request on the date of his daughter's wedding.
I want you to come over here and look at my notes that I did not. It's like visiting the Don at on his daughter's wedding day. So I was machaving.
What have I done to deserve such disrespect?
Okay, Ve'elav ish imo mi binyamin. He brings 1,000 people with him. This is either to honor David or as kind of a veil, like, hey, I still have people loyal to me. But Vitziva nar Beis Shaul v'chamesh asar banav v'esrim v'adav itov v'tzalchu hayarden lifnei hamelech. So he also in tow over here is Tziva, the servant of the house of Shaul. And remember, Tziva is big. Yeah. Well,
Mephibosheth under the rug.
He's the guy who last time, as far as we know, it's unclear. Last time he met David with a whole bunch of gifts, and David bought Tziva's story, which we don't know yet whether it was true or not. But he bought the story of, well, Mephibosheth is actually hoping that you'll lose the kingdom and that he'll become king, and that's why Mephibosheth is not here. So David gave him the inheritance of Beit Shaul. So now Tziva is showing up with his sons and his servants, and they're all there to cross David over the Yarden as part of this whole pomp and circumstance. And this is something you don't get very often in Tanakh. It's 3 words in a row that are essentially the same thing, and they cross the crossing to cross. As Beis David Hamelech la'asos hatov be'inav, v'Shimi ben Gera nafal lifnei Hamelech ba'avro be'Yarden. So we get Avar again for a 4th time in the pasuk, and Shimi, throws himself on the mercy of the court. Right, David has crossed over, and now he wants to kind of beg for his life. Vayomer el Hamelech al yachshov li Adoni avon. Don't consider this sin that I sinned against you. Val tizkor es asher he'eveh abdecha. Vayom asher yatsa, and they have nikudot over. There's these dots over the yod and the aleph. Adoni hamelech miyushalayim lasum hamelech el beito. When you left Yerushalayim, don't give that any thought. In other words, he's asking now for forgiveness of everything that happened before. Ki yada avdecha ki ani chatati b'nei bati hayom rishon l'chol beit. And this is interesting. I came as the head of, you would expect, Beit Binyamin, but he's actually unifying them all under Yosef. Rishon l'chol Beit Yosef, laredet likrad Adoni Hamelech. So here he's essentially saying, I represent all the other tribes other than Yehuda. And we're getting the sort of the prelude or the foreshadowing of the fact that when the kingdom breaks up, it will be Yosef and Yehuda. Vayan Avishai ben Surya. And so this is David's great. Binyamin with Yosef.
Yeah.
So Avishai ben Surya, who is who we saw him before when David was leaving, his response to all of this, he once again pipes up, Vayomer hatachas zos lo yumas shimi. Is it not for this that Shimi should die? Ki kilel es Mashiach Adonai. He cursed the anointed of God, right? We know you never do anything bad to the one that Hashem has anointed. So let's kill him. Vayomer David, and David's like, you clearly don't understand the geopolitical ramifications of what you're trying to do over here. Ma li v'lachem b'nei Tzuria. I'm sick of you guys, you b'nei Tzuria. Kitiu li hayom l'satan. Today you are trying to oppose me. Hayom yumas ish b'Yisrael. Should any Jew of all Yisrael die today? Ki halo yadati ki hayom ani melech al Yisrael. It should be known today that I am a king over all Yisrael. I love all my subjects. This is very similar to the discussion that happened when Shaul was originally anointed king, and there were those who kind of bickered and said, we're not interested in Shaul as king. Then he wins the battle, and suddenly everybody's on Team Shaul, and they say, let us kill those people who didn't want you to be king. And Shaul is like, no. Today I'm king. Today is a celebratory day. Now, the more cynical way to read this is today's not the day to do this. We'll kill him. Don't worry. We're just not going to kill him today.
Let's not bicker and argue about who killed who.
Because you have to remember at the end, what happens to Shimei? In Malachim Aleph, David's last words on his deathbed are, by the way, you make sure you kill Shimei.
Yeah.
I don't want.
Be smart about it, but take him out.
Right. So David definitely harbors, ill will.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Vayomer Hamelech El Shimi Lo Tamus Vayishava Lo Hamelech, and David swears to him that he won't kill Shimi. This is interesting because it doesn't. It sort of makes light of these kinds of oaths. We're going to see later on. David made an oath to Yehonatan that he wouldn't wipe out his family, but then he has to kind of figure out a way to kill a whole bunch of people from Shaul and Yehonatan's family. It's the same thing over here. I'm not going to kill you. I swear I'm not going to kill you. But this other guy over here is definitely going to kill you.
On my order.
Right, at my command. So, Mephibosheth's been
Murderers come with smiles.
Right.
While recording movies.
Mephibosheth ben Shaul Yarad Likras HaMelech. So Mephibosheth, if you'll recall, he is lame. He's unable to walk, and he comes down. Yarad Likras HaMelech v'lo asa raglav v'lo asa sfamo v'espegadav lo kibes, and he looks completely disheveled. He hasn't trimmed his nails. He hasn't cut his beard. He looks all out of sorts. Lemin hayom lechas hamelech ad hayom asher ba b'shalom. From the time that the king left until the time that the king came back in peace, he's essentially acting as if he's in mourning. And you can see that from his appearance now in front of the king. Remember, if the king is coming back in a celebratory way, when you go out to greet the king, you go out in celebratory fashion. You put on your finery and you make sure you've got a nice haircut and everything else. Mephibosheth is clearly intending to send a message in his appearance. Vayihi ki ba Yushalayim, and it was when David comes to Yushalayim, because remember, Mephibosheth can't get very far on his own. Right, he's lame, so there's no way he's getting all the way to the Yarden. He's waiting until David comes to Yushalayim, Likras Hamelach, to go out and greet the king. He didn't come with everybody else who greeted the king at the crossing of the Yarden. He waited until the king came to Yushalayim. Vayomer lo Hamelach, lama lo halachti imi Mephibosheth. And the king sees him and immediately questions him about his lack of participation in the original fleeing from Yerushalayim. Why didn't you come with me? Remember, Mephibosheth was eating at the table of David, and David had kind of taken him under his wing. So it would seem, at least superficially, that David has a strong claim on Mephibosheth abandoning him. And remember, David heard the Lashon Hara from Tziva about this. Vayomer Adoni Hamelech Avdi Rimani. And he says, my master the king, my servant, that's Tziva, he tricked me, he deceived me. Ki amar avdecha ech beshali hachamor ve'arkava leha ve'elech es hamelech ki piseach avdecha. And he says, I told my servant to go saddle the donkey for me. I wanted to ride out with you. Remember, I can't walk. I'm crippled. Right, I'm crippled. This is not on me. I, with all best of intentions, told Siva that I want to go with you, but he tricked me. Vayiragel ba'avdecha, and this is a play on words over here. He slandered me, but the word that we're using over here is ragel, right? Siva is he like
He put him
Miraglim,
in.
right? He exactly. V'yiragel that he's sort of emphasizing the fact that he slandered me and he slandered me in a way that I can't do anything because I can't be a Miragel. I can't go walking. El Adoni Hamelech. V'Adoni Hamelech kemalach Elohim. And you, David, you're like a malach. You know the right thing to do. You do whatever is good in your eyes. I trust the judgment of the king, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. My whole family deserved death at your hands, right? They were your enemy. And you instead showed me kindness. You brought me and allowed me to eat at your table. I can't. That's it. I've maxed out my favors. I couldn't possibly ask for any more tzedakah from you. V'lis ok od el hamelech, that I should appeal any further to the king. Vayomer lo hamelech lama tedaber od devarecha. I don't want to hear from you anymore. Amarti atav etziva tachloku es hasadeh. Here's what we're doing. You take half, Tziva takes half. I don't even want to figure out how any of this is going to play out. You have your story. He has his story. I don't know what to do with this situation. Just figure it out between the two of you. And Chazal pick up on this lack of judgment. And this is another theme that we've tried to underscore for many prakim now, David's misjudgment. It has happened, I think, in every chapter since the David and Bathsheba incident. We get another example of David either judging against himself or misjudging things. And this is a further example of where David is, remember, he's the king. Part of his job is to judge the people. And he is clearly not judging the situation correctly. And so Chazal say that from here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided, okay, if this is how you're going to judge things, then your kingdom will also be split. You're telling Siva and Mephibosheth should split the Yerusha. Your kingdom will be split between Rechavam and Yeravam ben Avad. Give me 1 second.
Tragic.
Yeah. Okay. So we've seen 2 of the 3 people that David saw on his way out, excluding Tzadok and Abiasar, who we also actually saw when they were called to bring David back. And now the third one that we're not going to get from David's, as a parallel from when David left, is Ittai Hagiti. Ittai Hagiti, we're going to assume continues to remain with David, but instead we get somebody else. Vayomer Loham, Vayomer Mephibosheth, this is Mephibosheth's reaction to David's psak over here, El HaMelech. Kol yikach, let him take everything. As long as you're safe, David, that's all I care about. He can have the whole thing. I just want to know that my benefactor, the king, is safe. Very gracious.
And that's how it's left, by the way.
Yes.
It doesn't go further than that.
Correct.
Even though it wasn't justice.
Right. Now I assume Mephibosheth continues to eat at David's table. I don't have any reason to assume otherwise.
Right.
But yes, and really, what does Mephibosheth like? What more does he need? Does he? Well, whatever. Ubarzila Giladi, I'm not going to press that point. Barzila Giladi Arab Miroglim Vayavor Es Hamelech Hayardain, and Barzilai joins David in going to pass over the Yarden. So now we've kind of moved back geographically to when David was still passing over the Yarden. L'shalcho Es Hayarden, to send him off at the bank of the Jordan River. So Barzilai was one of the people who gave David refuge and stuff when David was on the land. Barzilai zakein me'od. Barzilai is very old, ben shmonim shana. V'hu kilkal es hamelech b'shifto b'machanayim ki ish gadol hu me'od. And he is very wealthy. He supported David when David needed food and stuff in Machanayim. So he is now here to see David off on his way home. Vayomer Hamelech El Barzilai, Ata Avor Iti. And here I think the reason you have that word Iti is almost to help the reader understand that Barzilai is a stand-in for Itai, the Giti. So he says to him, come with, right? It's very nice that you've kind of been malava me to the Yarden, but come with, V'kikalti oscha imadi b'Yushalayim, and I will support you in Yerushalayim. You paid the tab for me when I was on the run. Now I want to return the favor. Vayomer Barzilai El HaMelech. So here he again has to kind of do this awkward dance, and this is again the inverse of David with Ittai Hagiti. Ittai said, I want to come with you, and David said, don't. And here David says, I want you to come with me, and Barzilai is like, actually, no, thanks, but no thanks. Vayomer Barzilai El HaMelech, Kama Yemei Shnei Chayai. How old am I already? I'm going to go with you to Yerushalayim. Do you really want an old schlepper like me? Ben shmonim shana anochi hayom. I'm 80 years old today. Haida ben tov lara imit am avdecha es asher ochal v'es asher ashteh im eshma'od b'kol sharim v'sharot. Do I have any sense of like a good meal versus a bad meal? I'm eating everything and it tastes the same to me. I'm an old man. I don't know good music from bad music. Everything sounds like rap music to me now. Why should I be a burden to you? And this was the same thing that David had talked about to Itai previously. I'm not 100% sure that I trust everything that Barzillai is saying over here, because what we mentioned in the pasuk before is Barzillai is filthy rich. He doesn't need the king's stuff. He's got everything that he needs in Machanayim. What am I gonna do? Leave all my land holdings and come hang out in the king's palace? I have my own king's palace. Like, what are you gonna give me that is so much better? How much better is your Ferrari than my Lamborghini? You know what I mean? You're gonna make me schlep out to you? I thanks, but no thanks. Kimat yavor avdecha sayarden. As hamelech, if I pass over the Yarden with you, Valami Yigmaleni Hamelech Hagmula Hazos, what can I do that you would reward me so generously? But since you're offering Yashavna Avdecha V'Amus Biri, let me go back home and die in my city. I think this is sort of a callback to Achitophel, who goes back home and dies in his city. Im Kever Avi V'mi V'Hinei Avdecha. But guess what? I have a kid. And once the government is offering favors, let me figure out how to get something on behalf of my family. Kimham ya'avor im adoni hamelech. Let my son Kimham come with you. V'asa lo es asher tov beinecha, and you do whatever is good in your eyes. Vayomer hamelech iti ya'avor Kimham. And the king is like, great, let Kimham come with me. V'ani esa lo esa tov beinecha. And I will do everything that you see fit. Instead of everything that I see fit, I will do what you think is good. And you let me know how to properly take care of your son. And I'm happy to extend the king's graciousness to him.
This was typical all the time.
Yeah, I think that's right. V'yavor kol ha'am es hayarden v'hamelech avar v'yishak hamelech leBarzillai v'yivarchehu v'yashav l'mkomo, and he gives Barzillai a kiss and blesses him, and Barzillai goes back home. V'yavor hamelech ha'gilgala v'kimham avar imo. Kimham does in fact continue with David v'chol am Yehuda he'viru es hamelech v'gam chatzi am Yisrael, and all Yehuda and even half of Yisrael escort David all the way back to Yerushalayim. V'hinei kol ish Yisrael ba'im el hamelech v'yomer el hamelech madua ganavucha achenu ish Yehuda v'yaviru es hamelech v'espeso as hayardim v'chol anshe David imo. And now everyone's getting jealous. Oh, I wanted to be part of the. They start getting on Yehuda's case. How come you guys have stolen David? We wanted to be part of the entourage. Why are you guys kind of monopolizing David? Vayankol ish Yehuda el ish Yisrael ki karov hamelech elai. What do you mean? He's my relative. V'lama zeh chara lecha. Why would you get angry about that al davar hazeh? Ha'achol achlanu min hamelech im niseis nisalanu. Have we consumed anything that belongs to the king? Did he give us anything special? We didn't get any special treatment. We didn't get a fancy party or gifts. We just did this out of the goodness of our hearts. So you can't have any tainas on us. V'yanish Yisrael as ish Yehuda v'yomer eser yados li b'melech. I have 10 shares in the king. V'gam b'David, and also the melech v'gam b'David. Ani mimcha umadua hakilo sani. So there's 10 of me of the tribes of Yehuda. Of Yosef, of Yisrael. And why should I get the short shrift? V'lo hayad v'arai rishon lila hashiv esamelech. I should be in the first position to return the king. Vayikesh David vayikesh davar ish Yehuda midavar ish Yisrael. But in the end, Yehuda prevails over the men of Yisrael, and they kind of put the squabbling to an end. Okay. So, just as a summary, after recounting the events that led to Avshalom's rebellion and eventual downfall, we compared and contrasted Avshalom and Yehonatan, and then we saw David's magnanimous return as a reversal of the events that brought him there, including a continuation of the theme of the king's misjudgments. David seeks to unite his factious kingdom, but in the next chapter, we're going to see that this brief respite will not hold. There's going to be another claimant to the throne who arises to challenge David once more. Yasher Koach. This is the end, beautiful friend. Thank you for joining us on our journey of learning, and I hope you will tune in for another episode soon, Mirz Hashem. Be well.